The Justice Department has charged more than 60 people in terrorism-related crimes in 2015. This is a record high, okay? Officials say that the heightened threat from the Islamic State and the influence of social media on potential recruits are a factor, saying, according to John Carlin, Assistant Attorney General for National Security, the common connection we're seeing is in almost every case a tie to social media. More than 55% of those charged are under 25 years old. And according to Carlin, one of the most troubling pieces of data is that 1/3 of those charged with terrorism-related charges during 2015 are 21 years old or younger. He said in a discussion with the Atlantic Council last month, quote, "That's not the same age demographic that we saw with Al-Qaeda, which tended to have older operatives." Some interesting questions here. Question number one is there really more terror, or are there more actions which are classified as terrorism related, right? I mean, that's a really big question. We have to, when we say there's more terror, it's like saying there's more autism. Is there more autism, or are we diagnosing more autism? And I think that's an interesting question to talk about here.
Yeah, well, it's not terror, it's the threat of terror, right?
Terrorism related.
Terrorism related. So there's a good chance that none of these people actually, committed any type of terrorist act, but they may have been plotting. They may have just been discussing it online. And so now that ISIS is so prominent on social media and the internet, you have situations where it's much easier to find the people that are talking with them, might be collaborating with them, or just praising them.
That's part one. But you know what part two is, and that's, we understand the FBI gets involved in this luring of would-be terrorists. And I told this crazy story of how the FBI, and it's widely documented, the FBI a couple of years ago sent an undercover to a covert operative to sort of infiltrate a casual environmental activism group. And ultimately, two of the members in that group were charged with plotting an eco-terrorist attack, so to speak. But it turned out that it was the FBI operative who sort of planted the idea of doing something big in the minds of this group. It doesn't seem at all that they would have even thought of doing such an act if it weren't for the FBI operative. The FBI operative also connected them with the people to provide the resources and funding to carry this out. It's not legally entrapment, but we have to think about whether that's a good use of FBI time, and I think it applies to these terrorism cases as well.
Yeah, we definitely need to ask, and I mean, this goes back a long time, how frivolous are these charges, and are there people being charged with almost no evidence? I mean, certainly we've seen over the past decade or so the stories of people being detained indefinitely against their will in black sites who ended up having no connections at all to terror.
And no charges ever filed, obviously. And then the last thing, Lewis, is we also need to wonder if the number would be even higher of people charged with terrorism and terrorism-related charges if we were just as aggressive with U.S.-born white terrorism-linked individuals as we are with those loosely affiliated with the ideologies of ISIS and ISIL. That's a broader discussion that we've had before, but we know that we don't... law enforcement is less inclined to use the term terrorism when we're talking about actions or plans by U.S.-born white individuals.
That is true, but I will say that lately, I think they have been doing a good job, because there have been many foiled plots by white terrorists in this country.
To say foiled, I mean, I think mostly as the result of the white terrorists messing up, right? I mean, we talked about a report.
They're kind of more in your face and vocal about their pro-white sentiment and their beliefs in this country.
People calling police, though, saying my neighbor is building bombs, and then 3 days later police show up and almost begrudgingly take the guy in, right? I mean, I don't know that that's really police foiling the plot.
Whereas and by comparison, the neighbor of the San Bernardino shooters was too afraid to call the police because of Islamophobia phobia.
Right. Yeah, no, there's a number of elements to this, no shortage of discussion. I'm open to hearing your thoughts about it. I'm on Twitter at Pakman, and Lewis is on Twitter at Lewis Motamedi.